welcome to For Me to We with Pastor and First G. I am First Gentleman Damion Parks-Weekly, and this is my husband, Pastor Romell Parks-Weekly. You guys have been missing us for a minute. We are so glad to be back.
It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. And we have heard everybody from across the country and our friends, and even a couple of my family members are like, hey, where y'all been? So, been seeing the things I guess we've been doing, posting individually, but not this particular thing. So here we are back.
Here we are.
I promise we are going to push to do at least once a month, you think?
We'll push to do them on a regular basis, whatever that basis is. He's going to ask me on camera how often we're going to do it.
He doesn't like conformity.
That's not conformity.
I mean, well, yeah, okay, you get what I'm saying.
He's making stuff up.
I know.
We're back.
But so just to give you a little bit of update, Pastor and I both have had a number of things going on together and separately. So I guess you want to tell everybody what's going on with you.
So we, in April of last year, April 2019, we purchased a new building. Our church purchased a new building, sold our existing building. So much bigger space with much more places to have ministry going on that we did not have in our previous building. So it was a intensive process and journey. And so it occupied a significant amount of my time, because while this was all going on, and I'm pretty much the point man on this whole endeavor, I'm also full-time grad student in seminary, so just a lot going on. So that was occupying my time. I also launched one back then, Thy Kingdom Came Academy. If you follow my ministry online or whatever, I'm sure that you've heard of it. We're a charismatic congregation, okay, believing in the power of God, the supernatural power of God. And so this academy's purpose is to train and equip people for supernatural ministry. And that is at thykingdomcame.org. Notice I'm not saying thy kingdom come, but thy kingdom came, past tense. That's key. But thykingdomcame.org launched back around then. And then I recently launched another course, this one on a platform called Udemy, or Udemy, however you pronounce it, .com, called Homosexuality and Same-Sex Marriage, a Biblical Theology. And to access that, you can go to homosexualityandthebible.com. It's a video course, and it's actually the most involved, intensive course on homosexuality that I've taught. So a lot of information, over 11 hours of teaching. So it was a pretty massive project. So was doing that, recently launched that. So, had a lot going on. I'm now actually just starting this week. We're in a intensive 1-month term, but in February, my final semester begins at seminary. So in May, the expectation is to be graduating with my Master of Divinity degree. Praise the Lord. You have no idea. But yeah, so a lot going on, but things are happening, and I'm glad about that.
Me too, and I'm happy for you. I really am. He's worked hard, and I'm glad that he's able to see it. I mean, he knew that it was coming, but I know he's glad to see the light that's at the end of this tunnel. So on a couple of those
more
things.
than you know.
And as for me, I'm last year in end of May, I started a new job at a new hotel, very premier hotel now. I'm very proud of it. I'm going to say in 16 years that I've been working for hotels, has been my favorite so far.
That's awesome.
The cool thing about it is that my hotel is actually very LGBT plus friendly. So that was exciting to me. And I've never had that issue for any of the hotels. I think hotels are probably one of the first businesses to really accept LGBT people without even really having to say so. But this one is actually saying so. So it's been a great experience with that. And looking forward to, I just yesterday evening met with a couple of friends and who are actually going to partner with me in order to refresh Live You and Live You Live. Really excited about that. We have some great things with that. Now, let me put this disclaimer about Live You. Live You is going to have a little bit more of a community base, and as much as a ministry still, not taken away from ministry by any means, but it will have more of a community presence. And when I say community, I do mean LGBT plus community. So you'll see a lot more conversation about that, and some more basic conversation. Everything is not going to be about us flipping scriptures and things like that, and there'll be some hard, conversation, as well as some things that might make you clutch your pearls. So, it won't be
We
anything.
like making people clutch their pearls.
Yes. So I mean, obviously, it's not going to be anything that's going to be like that it shouldn't be. But we are going to go in, full force and raw on some conversations, and things like that. So I'm really excited about that part. Launch is planning to be in February, so next year. Next month. Excuse me, next month in February. We have a date in mind, but until we get something solidified this week, we won't say for sure. And so just look for that information on that for Live You Live. Let's see, what else are we? That's almost enough. I mean, aside from my fraternity, and which is very active right now, the president of my local chapter of my fraternity right now, and as well as being a part of Black Pride in this area.
You want to plug your frat?
Yeah, Kappa Psi Kappa Fraternity Incorporated. Yeah, so I'm very proud of my brothers. We're very excited. Just hung up the phone a little while ago, planning a meeting for next week. Actually, meeting this Friday. So a lot of stuff going on with that, and Black Pride here too in St. Louis. Yeah, just a lot.
Yeah, we've been busy.
So
that's a reason that we have not been on.
We did just take a vacation and not do anything, but got a lot of stuff going on. But we promised to get back to this. And I did have someone, we were just talking recently, and I just had someone ask me, well, is Liv you going to have a retreat this year? Because I missed it last year. It's like, okay. It's not that bad. It's really not. So we are planning to do another retreat. It will be here in St. Louis this coming May. So it'll be something based right here, and just look for that information as well. Something else to add to the list.
Right.
But being the fact that we had a really nice turnout and a really good weekend last year. Yeah. So we want to continue to push that. So yeah, that's where we are.
Cool, yeah. Good. So, one of the things that we wanted to dig into today and kind of talk about that deals with, in this instance, relationships. Everything is not always about the we. There's also the me part too. But we wanted to dig in with this first episode back, talking about an aspect of relationships that I think we all know is an issue, but we don't really talk about it very much. And that's this need to set healthy boundaries in our relationships as it relates to our friends. Mm-hmm. And we want to hit this from two different angles, actually. The first angle is you're in a relationship and you have friends who don't have healthy boundaries, don't know what boundaries there are when you're in a relationship. And we see this all the time where, that's not how we used to always hang out before you got in this relationship. I'm in a relationship. Right. You did say before, right? That means something has changed between then and now. You just identified it before you got in this relationship, Mm-hmm. And so, things are going to change. That is a part of the process. And you can't expect the dynamic of your friendship to remain identically the same if you're in a relationship. It doesn't mean the friendship is over, but I hate to say it, grow up and realize they are starting an important part of their life. And you need to be supportive of that.
Absolutely. I've seen that happen a million times over. I even have friends who said to me when you and I got together, like, I don't think they had an attitude about it. They were more or less disappointed that I was not able to do the things that I used to do with them or hang out as much with them. But I would say 2/3 of them understood, and 1/3 just didn't understand why. Like, why I couldn't just go out to the club. I mean, I stopped going out to the club even before we met, but why we couldn't just go out to the club, why we can't just hang out over each other's house till 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning, or, all of those things. And I'm kind of like, well, but again, the dynamic changed. We can make some adjustments. It's not like I don't ever want to hang out with you again, but I am trying to solidify and trying to build this relationship.
And one point to be clear, him talking about like hanging out to 1 to 2 in the morning, that was not something that I demanded of him. We never had a conversation like that. Yeah. But if that's something that he decided that he wanted for as he continued to move forward, that's the decision that he made. And so it's his responsibility. And that's one of the things, the issues that we have even in relationships, where sometimes the partner gets a little, overexerts their influence and power. And so if that's a choice that he makes, then that's a choice that he makes, and it's up to him to set those boundaries. It's not my responsibility to set boundaries with his friends or to make the decisions for him as to where those boundaries are supposed to be. So those are choices that he made, and then likewise on my part, choices that I made.
Right. And I think we have to be honest. When you're in a relationship and things like that, it is just best to not even, I'm not saying that you have to walk around on eggshells, but it's usually best, like things like going out to the club and you hanging out till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Even if the person that you're trying to get to know is very confident in the relationship and doesn't have any trust issues, it just looks better, I think, to just be sure that, let's table that, or at least tweak it to where you're not hanging out like that on a regular basis or out late, that you do return calls as much as you can in a timely manner, so that helps to build, because it's in a relationship in the beginning, it's so fragile, so fragile. So when you say you're going to go all in, then you go all in.
When you say, not when y'all still talking,
right,
not when y'all just dating. We talk about relationship here. So Go back to our other videos and realize that we don't mean the day after y'all meet.
Right. Or the week after you meet. And then when it comes to the friends, I think a good friend understands, gives you that time and that space, and is there for you, because let's face the fact, in a lot of situations, it may not work out. So I need for you to be there for me and not get the attitude, well, you ain't had time for me when you was with so and so and so. And I'm like, why would you do that?
Right.
Like, I needed you to be a silent support while I'm trying to make this work. And if it didn't work out or doesn't work out, then I need you to jump back in, because I'm going to give you that same amount of space and respect when the time comes for you to be, when you're trying to cultivate a relationship.
And to be clear, we're not talking about cutting people off
at all.
And even as a friend, we're not saying that it's okay that your friend cuts you off
right,
because they're in a relationship. We're not talking about getting into a cult or an unhealthy relationship where the person has them cut off from their family and friends. That's not what we're talking about, okay?
Right.
We're just talking about healthy boundaries. The dynamic does change. It is not eliminated, but it does change. And you as a friend, I like the word you use, being a support, supporting them in that effort. And if it doesn't work out, that's not something to cheer or celebrate.
Right.
See, I knew because, girl, calm down. I mean,
And even if you did know, that was not the time for you to say it.
Yeah, because again, we're not trying to celebrate. You should want your friend to be happy.
Right.
And you should be hoping and praying that the idiot that they're with is going to make them happy. Right? And proves to not actually be an idiot.
Right.
That's true. Yeah.
But I do think that, that's on the friend side, but the actual individual. So it's up to the person that's actually doing the dating for you to insist upon those boundaries. And I do think that, a lot of times we're quick to say that, well, I don't owe them no explanation. But I'm like, well, it's not a matter of owing, but I think out of respect for the friendship, that you do have a conversation with your friend and say, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to cut you off completely when I have some time, or we have some time together. Let's hang out again. We just may have to change how, where, and the time that we do hang out. That changes a little bit. I noticed that for some Facebook friends of mine, so they were like inseparable as two friends. You could tell, like, every weekend they're hanging out and partying and just really having a good time. Well, one of the two is now in a relationship, and you can really tell that the other one is a little bit sour about it. Did one of those silly, I've come into the new year now and I'm cutting people off, and I'm like, oh God, do I have to hear that every year? So I don't even want to go into that, but this whole every year you have to cut off somebody.
I want to use the phrase "grow up," and that sounds so condescending, but it just seems so childish to have your meat hooks in a friend and act like they can't go nowhere or growth and nothing else can change in their life unless it involves you. I mean, for real, get your own life. Get your own boo.
But I think that's the problem. They don't have those things. So
your friend cannot become that for you. Yeah. It's like a parent. It's like I'm going to use this example, this analogy. It's like a mother who
Never let's go to umbilical
of,
cord.
of their child, right?
Yeah.
And because daddy's gone, daddy's, you know, we didn't work out, we got divorced, and now you clinging to your child. And now you mad at any girl your child is dating, and you giving her the stink eye, and he can't be your husband.
Right.
You got to let him do, and it's the same kind of dynamic with friends.
friends.
He can't be your boo. He is a friend, and yet he's still longing, and I'm using the word he,
Sure.
could be she, is still longing and desiring for something that your friendship is not intended to provide. And you got to get in the space to pursue that.
Right. That's true.
So, but it goes back to what you were saying. It's the responsibility of the one in the relationship to set those boundaries with the friend. We do way too much expecting people to assume things.
Right.
We go into a relationship
talk about it
expecting the
enough.
person we're dating to assume things about us, to be a prophet. They need to know when I'm down. No, you need to open your doggone mouth and tell them when you're down. Right. Your friend, they need to know how to change when I'm in a relationship. No, have a conversation with them. Mm-hmm. You are an individual. That means that you have specific and particular expectations that they may not be shared with other people, with other friends. Mm-hmm. So you need to have a conversation with them directly to let them know where you are and what you would like from them in your friendship going forward. Communication doesn't just work in a relationship, in a dating relationship. It works in all forms of relationships that we have, right, including friendships.
Exactly. And I think that's really easy for friends if they want, I know you, I've been knowing you for XYZ years. And I'm like, okay. But don't assume that the person you knew 10 or 15 years ago and how I dated and how my last relationship was, or even 2 years ago, let's not assume that that's how I'm going to be in this scenario, in this situation. I'm trying, if anything, I should be trying to do something different than I did the last 12 times we tried this thing. You know, yeah. I should expect you to be doing things differently in order to get a better result than you did the last time. So if lack of communication with your friend was an issue, then let's put that on the table, on the list of things to do in this relationship. So.
And perhaps what didn't work in my last relationship was you.
Right. You might have been in
improper boundaries with my friend. And it's another thing. If y'all have a very, very touchy-feely type of physically intimate relationship as friends, you need to set some boundaries when it's time for your relationship. You cannot get mad as a friend. You cannot get mad if you all hanging all over, clutching and stuff, your friend, and touching them like that, and the other person gets bothered by that. Yeah. That's inappropriate.
It is.
You're not. This person has somebody now, and you have to pump the brakes on some of the things that. Well, we were like that before yes, before. And again, it's like I keep going back to this. Grow up, because it just seems so childish to think that nothing is supposed to change in your friend. Yeah, it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to.
That's good. That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because I've seen that happen 100 times too.
And I've also seen them go overboard with it because they're trying to prove the point that I can still be this person, but you can't.
Right. But a lot of times too, I think we figured out too that you ultimately find out that the friend is in love with the friend.
Let's name that.
Yeah.
Let's name that because you didn't want to communicate.
Yeah.
You're afraid of ruining your friendship. Mm-hmm. If your friendship can't survive the revelation that you have feelings for your friend, then perhaps it's not as strong a friendship as you thought it was. Right. You all can survive with the other person knowing that you are romantically involved and y'all have a conversation and he says, I hear you, and I'm like really flattered, like, oh my God, but that's not how I feel about you. You know, the friendship should be able to survive that. So you need to still be able to have that conversation and not have expectations and demands of this person that are unfair because those are the feelings you have for him, not feelings he has for you.
Right. And I've been in that some years ago, actually twice that I can think of. I've been in that situation before and I really had no idea. I think my thing of it is that usually I am so busy when I'm in my circle of friends, I'm so busy trying to make sure that everybody is okay, and a lot of people don't get that outside of me, so they kind of take it mentally and emotionally. They take it or have taken it. I hadn't had that experience in years, but they kind of took that in the wrong direction and had some feelings for me. One of them we were able to remain friends, but he needed some space, and the other one I have not heard from since.
And that's bothersome. So I had a girl. I had a girlfriend, not a girlfriend, but a girlfriend who apparently had, and everybody told me she like you, and I was like, no, she don't. No, she don't. No, she don't. Like, dude, she like you. No, she don't. So anyway, it turns out apparently she was in love with me, and the Lord had told her that I was her husband.
The Lord.
And and all this stuff, and this was back before I was affirming and was still trying to live the straight life and everything. So when I wound up dating my ex-wife, that like ruined my friendship with this girl because apparently she had feelings for me, and I was like, number one, you never told me this, and I'm sitting here telling other people that you don't, making a fool out of myself as being naive because I'm trusting the nature of our friendship because you never communicated that to me. And then you have these expectations of me that are unfair because I don't have these feelings for you, and therefore it's not fair of you to expect certain things from me because I don't have these feelings for you. Now, the Lord told you that I was your man, make a move. Now, I would have turned you down, but make a move.
Right.
So yeah, it was very upsetting to me just as the person because I felt like, was that why you were my friend? This is the person I can't. This is like my best friend. This was my best friend, and I was like, that's why we were friends.
Right.
That really bothered me. That really hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
So, ooh, that was a good one.
What is our next topic?
So the next kind of rolls into still the dating thing. So mainly I think obviously this goes towards gay men. Why do we want to date straight men? What is the point of that? Why? I mean, I know what the main thing is that society has put us in this whole machismo mentality that the more masculine he is, the more of a man he is, which I find completely insulting. I think it insults everybody. But but the whole look of, or the idea that, okay, here's a straight man, he's a real man. And every time I ask some gay guy that says that, they cannot actually define what that means. So you just want someone who you feel like has more masculine qualities, and you want to be assured of that because that's, I don't know, that's the apex of dating and relationships and things like that. And don't get me wrong, when I was young and stupid, I had the same mentality. Like in my 20s, I wanted some guy who was more masculine than me or whatever. I dated. So first of all, when we say that if you're gay and you dated a dude, or if you just smashing with a dude, he's not straight.
And that's why I was kind of confused at first when you said dating a straight guy. I was like, is it really the dating aspect? Because if they're dating, he's not straight.
No.
But is it the dating, or is it just the thrill of the hunt?
I think a lot of guys there is.
Straight folk, like, y'all trying to convert folk. It's like, no, we not. Some of y'all are. Because some of y'all think it's something cute in the attempt to try to seduce. But the man is straight. Leave him alone.
Leave him alone. And I just don't understand that. So I actually know someone who really, so if I'm 45, he's clearly early 50s, who actually goes after young, presumably straight males. And I mean, like 6 months, 9 months, a year, it like sets them up like prey, and then finally makes.
Elaborate on young. Are we talking?
So if he's like in his 40s, he was mentoring and actually kind of befriending young 20-something-year-olds. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. I have friends that are 20-something-year-olds, but I'm not trying to set them up, But he was like setting them up and becoming mentors for them, taking them to, getting them to join church and being a father figure for those who didn't have one. I mean, like really doing a good job of that. But ultimately what happens is when he gets to the point where he actually can make a move, whether that be...
So this was a long game.
This was a long game. And I don't know, well, to be delicate about it, by the time he was able to conquest...
so when he had adequately groomed them for...
Yeah. And so he makes this move, and one of two things usually happens. I'll just say they don't involve intercourse, but some other two sexual acts. And he's done with them. I mean, like, done. Like, ghosting phone calls and don't have nothing, and now because he's on to the next one, and I'm like, you just spent 6 or 9 months on here, so this is like mental and emotional, and at this point the dude ready to kill you
because you just abused this person.
You abused the person, and I'm like, so y'all playing these games with straight guys or whatever. I'm always like, I have friends who are transgender, and I know the death toll being the way that it is, but always in the back of my head, I might get some flack about this, but I'm like, did the guy know that were you trying to approach the guy for one reason or another, and did he know that you were biologically, were you male? Because I feel like that's I don't think it's fair to put people in this situation not knowing what your ultimate intentions are. I feel like, especially now in 2020, by the time we're here, there's enough gay men to go around, whether you want them to be soft or more masculine or whatever the case is. But having to hunt down people or trying to pair up with people, with guys who are presumably straight, you're setting yourself up for issues, problems, violence, or whatever. I really need for us to just kind of get out of the mode that we were in 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, where, everybody just like want to trade, that trade mentality. We got to get away from that, because I think we have seen time and time again how damaging that really is to, they've got issues and problems, and then you're taking on theirs as well as the ones that you might have on your own anyway. So why put yourself in that situation? And just be able to date norm and do your norm, rather than trying to go after that. He's not going to leave his wife for you. They're not going to marry you. You're not going to get any of these things. And most of the time it's somebody that doesn't want to be seen in public with you. So what? We're still doing that,
And just to build on this trans issue, because it's an important issue and it's very controversial, but we're not here to just tell people what we think they want to hear. We're voicing our opinion, and we're going to have our opinion.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and I agree with you. Here's the thing. If the person is straight, and let's say you're FTM, you're female, MTF, male to female, and the person is straight, and so you say, well, I'm a woman. I grant you're a woman, but I'm also LGBT. So I understand the dynamics, and I've been shaped by my worldview that agrees with you that you're a woman. This straight man may not believe you're a woman. Whether you believe you're a woman or not, you have to realize you don't live in a world by yourself. There are other people with other worldviews. Right. And if you want to be involved with this person, you have to respect the fact that they may not be okay with that. Now, they may be okay with that. There are straight men who don't have hangups like that, and they like, hey, if you got a thing, we can't hang. But if you've been clipped, we can strip. I'm trying to use like rhyming words, but the idea of if they feel like, hey, if you're going through transition, I'm cool. That's fine.
But you give
that's
them
great.
That opportunity.
But you've got to respect them enough to give them that. We want people to respect us. Mm-hmm. Why can't we respect them?
Absolutely.
So it's not okay for somebody to beat you. It's not okay for somebody to murder you. We've seen that stuff happen, and that's not okay. And we would never try to make excuses for that. However, we also have to understand that when we push certain people who don't have the same morals that we have, and we push certain people in these kind of ways, especially when they have been conditioned by the church and conditioned by society to think that homosexuality is disgusting and nasty, and then you just trick them as far as they're concerned into this scenario, then I understand them lashing out. I don't agree with it. It's not okay, but I understand them lashing out. So we can't, I'm going to say this, we can't play the victim when we have knowingly went into the situation and put somebody in that kind of situation. And that is unfair. It does not mean you got what you deserved. It does not mean that, but it's still unfair. And we can't play the victim in those situations. You bear some responsibility in that because you did not, I used the word earlier, communicate.
Right.
You got to communicate that.
Absolutely.
When do you have that conversation? I don't know. First of all, I'm not trans, so it's only so far that I think I can reasonably go in a conversation like this. I have an opinion about it, but I can't go into every because I don't live that. I don't know. You know, do you do it before the first date? Do you do it before the first kiss? I don't know. I can't answer that for you. But you need to do it before y'all have too. Number one, before too long, whatever too long is, and number two, before there's any intimacy.
Right.
I don't think that you should kiss. I don't think that there should be, you know, hold hand, okay, fine. But kiss or anything beyond kissing, I just don't think that's fair. I'm sorry, I don't.
I don't either.
And that's not being transphobic.
No.
That's being respectful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's good. I like that. So I just don't want us to, me personally, I'm just like, I wouldn't want us to continue, and for LGBT people, we no longer have to live in a fantasy world. We don't have to make up things. So like now, I have to admit, and I did it some years ago too, but now I'm a little, I won't say offended, but I'm a little rubbed the wrong way when I hear couples refer to each other as husband and wife, and I know that they're not married, because now we actually are able to get married. Like we could have got on our own, gotten married from spiritual perspectives, and people have for decades. But now, and especially
Maybe having
now,
wifeys.
right?
That's my wife.
But now that we're actually able to be married, and we have been for a minute now, for what are we in year 5, I think, from marriage equality I think it was 2015. But now, you know, here we are 5 years later, and we're actually able to be married. So let's treat that as the norm. Let's treat that as a respect for those of us who are married, and hundreds of thousands of others who are. And actually, it was a work and an adjustment to get there, to do what we had to do in order to actually be celebrated in our actual marriages. So why not revere that? Why do you want a husband prior to the fact that this is actually your husband? I didn't call him my husband before we actually got married. Because that meant something to me. Like,
And when he says married, he doesn't just mean legally married, even though that's available now.
Sure.
But, you know.
Yeah, but definitely for us on our spiritual perspective, we had an actual wedding day and whatnot. But I wanted to revere the title of husband. Like, I didn't want to just have that be some fantasy thing. I wanted that to be a reality, and I wish that we could get that, and I think we're slowly turning to it. But before we go into this hubby and wifey type thing, you know, think about that before you do. You know, don't diminish my marriage by your terminology. And I realize, you know, that's you doing you, and this is us doing us. But I'm saying, like, you know, what about for you guys? Like, when you get to the point where you are going to get married, then you get the good feeling to say my husband and my wife from an across the board spiritual perspective, legal perspective.
Because the word at that point, it has meaning.
Right.
Yeah, like you rob it of meaning.
Right.
If it's not actually true.
Absolutely. And that's all I'm saying. Is that, you know, it actually has a meaning now. So that's cool.
Yeah. Okay. It's kind of the same thing with sex. You know, it's like, why if you wait till you get married? That don't work for me. Okay, fine. It doesn't work for you. Okay, fine. But you still want sex to have meaning.
Right.
And if you're just giving your body away to every nook and cranny, everybody to come around, then it's like, it doesn't have meaning anymore. It's just sex.
Yeah.
And it's like, it would be such a great thing, and not just for the LGBT community, but for humanity, period.
All day long.
For sex to not be just sex anymore. For it to actually matter and have meaning. We really need to restore that.
Yeah. I read something on Instagram, and I was actually kind of shocked because I saw it on one of the, here in St. Louis, on one of the nonprofit pages. Someone had posted, it was actually an article or a statement from a New York magazine or something, but one of the 20 things, something about in 2020, these things are no longer relevant or something like that, and they were like virginity was wow. Virginity was a how did they put it? Virginity was a myth. And I said, What?
Yeah, because everybody having sex.
Because everybody's having
Just
sex.
because you had sex and your kids had sex
Yeah.
and your dad had, don't mean everybody having sex.
And so-
I mean, I wasn't a virgin, but that don't mean there aren't still virgins out there.
Exactly.
And why erase them?
And get out of my mouth. It's like, why would you erase a young person who wants it, or even if it wasn't a young person, but why would you want to take that away from an individual who is revering their body, revering their intimacy, and wanting to hold on to that to a better time? Maybe they don't wait until they're married, but maybe they're not coming out of 16, or just younger than that. Maybe they wanted to hold on to it until after college or during college or whatever.
Whatever reason they
But
have.
but you trying to erase virginity was just insulting. I thought it was inhumane. I thought it was just the stupidest thing I've read in the last couple of weeks. But yes,
It's really, to me, it's all about two things. Number one, making your own choices, and number two, other people having the responsibility to respect those choices. It's just about respect.
Right.
If they choose to be, there's nothing wrong with them if they're a virgin. You a virgin? Why you a virgin? Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
It's a choice that they made, and we should respect that.
Right.
We should celebrate the choice that they made. Now, if they choose to be a virgin, that's fine. If somebody chose not to be a virgin, okay, that's fine.
Right.
It's your choice. Nobody should shame you. It's amazing that when we do the deviant thing, the thing that has been traditionally viewed as deviant, we want to be respected for our choice. But if somebody chooses to do the more traditional approach, then we don't want to respect them for their choice. Well, why not? If you can be respected as a whole, they can't be respected as a chaste, whatever the word would be, prim, Little House on the Prairie, whatever, however you would describe it. Look at me now, I'm getting insulting.
Right.
But the point that I'm making is, on either side of the scale, it's just about respecting people's choices.
Right.
And this irritates me, I'll be honest with you. Something that I've observed in the LGBT community is that we are very big on people respecting our choices. We get loud, we get angry, we get, catty and all that kind of stuff. But we don't reciprocate the respect that we expect from other people.
Yeah.
And I say we, obviously, when you can't paint with a wild brush, fool, I know that. I mean, oh my God. And I get so tired of having to say that. People say that, doggone well, I'm not talking about every LGBT person.
Right.
But there are some things that seem to characterize
A greater magnitude of people.
Yes. So no, I'm not painting everybody with that brush. But unfortunately, it's something that we have observed. Clearly, I'm not the only one. He was nodding his head the whole time.
Right.
And we can do better than that.
Absolutely.
Because it's right of us to expect and demand respect. But we should be giving it to.
Agreed. And that's one of the things that I kind of been on a pedestal about, especially like this past month. I was at a retreat last month, and actually the planning meeting that I had last night for Live You, the relaunch of Live You, is that one of the things that I am just so adamant about pushing. I've been doing it in my fraternity. I'm doing it with Live You, just in our interaction with our sons. Is this whole messy, petty, catty mentality, that whole, and all of that, talking about people and
Real Housewives attitude.
Yeah, that is just, I realize like it's like the thing that people are doing, but it is not okay.
It's not.
And when the shoe is on the other foot and the messy, petty, catty crap that it comes to you, then you're doing just like what you talked about you're ready to fight. You got an attitude about it. You're ready to get everybody told. So I'm like, how is it that you're gonna be okay with dishing it out, but you can't take it at the same time? So, I'm not perfect by a long shot, but when I say I avoid that kind of crap, like bubonic plague, like I'm not trying to get that. I'm not trying to hear it. I'm not trying to give it out. And I'm not perfect by a long shot, not trying to be, but I am pushing towards something what I feel like is a greater humanity than what we have right now on a lot of levels. And so a lot of times that has to start in our immediate families, our immediate core friends, our churches, our local community. Be an example of one and change the way that things have been done. Just because everybody else is doing it,
and have the courage not to laugh and not to okay it when somebody else does it.
Exactly. And I don't. I work hard at not doing that. I get up to my kids about that all the time. So, but anyway. But this is a good comeback, huh?
I think
enjoy
so.
it.
They have to judge that for themselves.
This is
So that means we need your feedback. Let us know.
Definitely. So Pastor and I did decide, I'm sure you guys have seen by now, we didn't do this Facebook Live. We went back to our pre-recorded from
Format,
Me to Weeze.
yeah.
I think we'll pop up on Facebook Lives and just kind of do some hellos or maybe just some announcements and things like that that'll last a few minutes. And you guys can chat with us live and ask a few questions. But for the most part, from Me to We will go back to a recorded format. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And we'll like I said, we'll do a live, maybe a live hour like we did before, every now and then, but it won't be
On regular.
normal. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, it was great to be back. We are so glad that to hear from the rest of you, those of you who didn't give up on us, and we're notice we got a new little setup down here. This is Pastor's domain for the most part. But I'm just glad to be back. I'm excited for what 2020 has for us in store, and certainly what it has for you. So. With all of those things, as always, I think we would have to say keep God first.
Indeed. Before you close, he's the pastor bringing the closing.
My bad.
But no, quickly, show ideas, the topics that you would like to see us talk about and address and discuss.
Sure.
Let us know about that. Send us a message on Facebook or comment on the video. And let us know what you'd like to see us talk about and address.
Absolutely. So this video is going to be on Facebook and will be on our YouTube page as well. So be sure to look out for that one.
YouTube.com. I think it's been a long time. I think it's /Parks-Weekly Ministries.
Okay. Or just look for Parks-Weekly Ministries. So
Yeah.
Search.
Yeah.
But it's been great. So thank you all, and we'll see you next time.
Love you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.